What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Thursday night live stream on Drums and Drams. We're back to the regular time, the new regular time of 9 p.m. Eastern, which we, I think, changed to, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. But it is always going to be 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights from this point forward. I just got back yesterday from Green River, where we did our kind of final barrel pick within, I guess it was like a 10-day sprint, 10-day run of barrel picks, Hard Truth, Driftless Glen, Green River. Tomorrow, I'm headed up kind of on an impromptu trip up to River Roots in Cleveland just for a quick day trip, taste some barrels up there, pick up actually the brand new pick that's going to be dropping August 30th. I'm getting a couple of preview bottles, which is exciting, of the almost 10-year Kentucky bourbon at 122 proof. I'll show you guys a picture of that later on in the live stream. If I forget, please remind me, because the artwork's cool and the bottles look great. So I'm back from that. I am exhausted, just letting you know. So if I'm low energy tonight, I'm going to try not to be, but if I am, I do apologize. And I've also been back to exercising, working out over the last 2 weeks, pretty darn consistently, so I'm sore as crap. So that's also contributing to my tiredness. Let me pour something out real quick, guys, and then I just want to take a second to say something real quick. You guys in the Patreon and the Discord, specifically the Discord, already know this. This is the Bourbon Junkies Buffalo Trace pick that Jimmy Copeland, kind of generously gave them when he won the Sazerac lottery to get a barrel. So I'm going to start with a sip of this, but I just want to very quickly say something on here. I'm not going to go into any of the details, but we have a Patreon member who has had kind of a family emergency, let's say, a medical emergency, and it's a pretty dire situation, although it seems like there's been good news. So I'm gonna keep it vague. People in the Discord know what's going on, but it's not my place to publicly share any of that. All that to say, I just want to say, cheers to this particular person, and I'm glad that there's good news and hopefully more around the corner as well. So cheers, man, and everybody else out there. Situations like this, family emergencies, medical stuff, accidents, just hug your loved ones tighter. And something that Sarah and I never like to go to bed angry or ever have an argument and not work it out like immediately. And situations like that, hearing about those and experiencing them firsthand, is always kind of a reminder of that, let's say. So anyways, cheers, kind of a quick little, moment to recognize that and hoping for some more good news. So yeah, cheers, guys. All right, so on tonight's live stream, we have a bunch of stuff to taste, guys. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat here in a second, but I want to just kind of get into it and preview what exactly is going on. All right, sorry, getting some DMs here. So let me run down the bottles we're going to be tasting this evening. We're obviously going to start with this Buffalo Trace from the Junkies. First sip, very good. We're going to start with that. We have a couple of brand new picks to talk about that I just finished up on this road trip. Here we have a rye whiskey, a sweet mash rye from Hard Truth. So I am going to taste that on this stream. And look at the color of this. Okay? So we'll get into why that color is the way it is. I'll give you some notes on it. That's going to be dropping soon. And then I do have the Junkies brand new Green River from Bourbon in the Barn. But I also have our sample of the Green River pick that we finished up on Tuesday, 2 days ago. So we're gonna talk about these new picks. I have a Kentucky Spirit that I just picked up in Indiana. Or where was I at? Yeah, this was in Indiana. This was after Hard Truth. This is a Camp Nelson F. So everybody's been talking about the Camp Nelson F Kentucky Spirits. Found one of these on the shelf, which is awesome. We got a new brand here. I don't think I've tasted this on a live stream, maybe for Patreon. I can't remember. So if this is rehash, I'm sorry, but I don't remember actually giving notes on this because I don't have the notes in my head myself. So if that's the case, I feel like I didn't taste this live. This is HK Young. This is a brand new brand. Brand new brand. What a sentence. 116.6 proof. Batch number 1. So first release for them. And then I have a gang of Crittenden's bottles, courtesy of a generous Patreon member who I believe wishes to remain unnamed. I have a bunch of Crittendens to taste today. It's my very first experience. I went ahead and got the wax off earlier, poured it out and nosed a little bit of it, but I haven't tasted any of this yet. So I have the toasted pecan, I have a couple of single barrels, and I also have the sherry finish. So plenty of that stuff. And finally, speaking of a gang of whiskeys, I think I have like 5 different King's Family Distillery samples here from Travis R in the live chat. Drop these off at Bourbon in the Barn. So we have a bunch of stuff to go through. And on that note, wax on, wax off. On that note, there is no giveaway officially tonight on this stream, but there still is a giveaway, but it's a little different. And I didn't make a banner yet, so bear with me here. Let's do it this way. Create a banner. Tonight's giveaway, a sample pack of all previous Drums and Drams barrel picks. To enter, join the Patreon during the stream. $5 tier equals 1 entry. $10 tier equals 2 entries, because the rest of it's sold out, I do believe. So, for tonight's giveaway, again, please hit that like button on your way in. I'm really trying to encourage people to jump into the Patreon. It's so great to have people entering the giveaway. But again, the Patreon is like a very, very nice, consistent way to support the channel. $5 a month, it's a cup of coffee. $10 a month, it's less than Netflix, you know? And those things also get you giveaway entries monthly in the Patreon, access to barrel picks, exclusive this and that, yada, yada, yada. But tonight, for everybody that enters and joins the Patreon, I'll keep track of it this evening. I'm going to go live on Patreon right after this live stream, and I'll go through the spreadsheet very quickly of who jumped in. Every $5 person is 1 entry. If you jump in, and the $10 tier, it's 2 entries. You're going to get a sample pack of every previous Drums and Drams barrel pick, all the River Root stuff, all 3 ryes, the Dark Arts, the Middle West Wheat Whiskey, both Evernorth picks, and I'll go ahead and throw in the brand new Hard Truth, which is unreleased until October as well. So hopefully you guys are encouraged to jump in. I'm going to give away 2 of those sample packs. If only 2 people jump in the Patreon tonight, you both get them. Otherwise, we'll do a randomizer right after this live stream in the Patreon. So stay tuned for that. Just trying to get a few more folks over there. And also, this is my first experience going live directly after a public live stream in the Patreon, which I want to make a little bit more of a normal thing moving forward. Maybe once a month we do a kind of an after party over in Patreon. So this is kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So I hope you'll consider jumping in on that. And if you did jump in the Patreon earlier today, a few folks did, I'll count that because I feel like I should. But if it was yesterday or last week, I can't count that. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. Woo. All the housekeeping, I think, is out of the way. And we'll revisit some other stuff throughout the stream. But there's so much whiskey to review, and I'm excited to kind of dive into all this stuff here. Christine, tonight won't be necessarily an after party. It'll just be a quick randomizer spin and then a debrief. All right, so let's see who's in here. And let me know, guys, if you have this Junkies Buffalo Trace and what you think of it. I'm not expecting this to reinvent the wheel. It's a Buffalo Trace pick. As long as it's on profile and or off profile, but as long as it's not bad, I don't think it can be bad. I think these are always pretty darn consistent 90 proof options, and typically always better than the shelf version of Buffalo Trace. Travis, glad I helped inspire the new splash screen. Yeah, man, these samples, these King's samples are going to be, it's a lot, but I'm going to try to get through them all tonight. What's up, Matt? Have the Green River, Wisconsin, and it's amazing. Yeah, there are some really fantastic Green River picks out there. And at this point, I've tasted about 15 barrels, I think, total of Green River. Between the 2 picks I've been on, plus purchasing single barrels and getting samples, there's actually a wide range of flavor profiles. Same mash bill, all within about a 6-month age range, except for a few outliers like the Junkies first pick. But you can really get a lot of flavor profiles with a pretty narrow band of it's seemingly narrow band of options. Who knows, maybe the Rickhouse positioning is vastly different between them. I have no idea. But I think by and large, they're really solid buys. Adam Hyman, 6 minutes, 38 seconds late. You know it, dude. Joe, I can already tell from the title, this stream. Yeah, it might. We'll see. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly my response, Jeremy. Have faith. Show a little bit of faith, Joe. What's up, Justin? Tom, good to see you guys. John, Guy, David. I see Austin's in here. Sean as well. All right, I'm going to keep scrolling. Greg Smith, cheers to you. Good to see you in here. Cam has no self-control. What are you guys talking about? Oh, Austin says, can't wait to see how much Green River is left. Yeah, look at this. I did some damage on the last night. I'm like, I've only been drinking on pick days, so I've actually had a lot of days off. But last night I said I wasn't going to have anything, and I did some work on this. It was a little lower when I started, but not much. So good. All right, keep going. Joe said I'm eating taco. Actually, I have tacos in the fridge. Okay, all right. We're going to keep going. Exhausted and sore must be getting old. A little bit. Just a little bit. Maury, what's up, man? Leo, thanks, guys, for jumping in. Clay, Eric. Adam says, very interested in what you think about the toasted pecan, which I believe is this one. Yeah, we'll get into it. I think it's, I'm a little, like the Crittenden stuff admittedly worries me just a bit because hot climate, I don't know much about them. That always worries me, so I'm very, very curious to give these a try and see if they do come off like super crafty, which I'm kind of expecting, or maybe they don't. I'm not sure. Got to give it a fair shake, though. I don't want to like put too many things in my head beforehand. All right, banger picks in those samples, says Matt. Y'all jump in the Patreon. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see if anybody does. I thought this would, maybe encourage somebody because, whatever I don't fill out in the sample pack of our picks, I'll just throw in some other cool bottles as well. Because I usually put 10 or 12 samples in there, and I think we only have 8 picks that'll go into that giveaway. Dustin, Cam, just curious if you have any idea how many miles you put on the last month. Dude, I don't know. And by the way, Dustin and a few other folks in here, I see your messages coming in. I haven't opened any of them, because if I open them, I'll forget about them. So I am like really far behind on DMs. I promise I'll get back to you guys. I really, really promise. What's up, Mark? Old man. It's funny. All right. Buffalo Trace pick from the Junkies. To me, it just tastes like a richer version of Buffalo Trace. A little bit more sweetness to the honey notes in here. Yeah. This is like down the middle, just very, very solid bourbon. I think the price was like $35 on this. And if you combine it with the Green River shipping, made sense at $25. So very, very solid. I don't think there's any need to overthink this. So this might end up being a warm-up pour for me on live streams from this point forward. I don't have a regular Buffalo Trace. Actually, you know what? I do have one over here. I forgot that I had this bottle upstairs because I was going to use it for a little experiment, which I'm still going to do. I'll be bringing back regular content release schedule, guys, next week. It's just been a little tough on the road. I have like a few half-edited videos. I never had time to finish anything completely. Let's see real quick how this Buffalo Trace comparison goes. Yeah, Terry says, get rested up. Yeah, we have a backbone pick on August 30th. I've heard that some of those can be dangerous and very, very intense with the amount of stuff that they pull and let you sip. So that's going to be one where I'm keeping an eye on everybody in the group, make sure we're good. And we'll see how it goes. When the choices are endless, it makes picks very challenging. Everyday Reviews and Rants says, the Crittenden's Double Oak Bruzel pick is way better than the toasted pecan. I was a little let down on the pecan. Was hoping it would be as good as the Jack Daniel. Well, the Jack Daniel's toasted pecan is a totally different beast. That is a fantastic pour. You know what? Oh, man. Okay. So doing this side by side with the regular Buffalo Trace just on the nose, the Junkies pick blows the regular stuff out of the water. You guys know what regular Buffalo Trace smells like. This has a little bit of a cardboard note in addition to the honey, the sweetness, the vanilla, corn grain notes you expect. It has a teeny bit of a cardboard note, and it's got kind of a closed-off white pepper quality to it. The Junkies on the nose is so sweet. Oh my gosh. It's like rich vanilla icing as opposed to this like hint of vanilla that you get in the standard stuff. So, yeah, I think they knocked us out of the park. Always curious to see if there's a color difference on some of these picks, but there's not. Yeah. Wow. Very different. I would have never known. That's the power of side-by-sides, I think, there. Okay. So let's move on. Let's get into some other stuff here. We're going to try, I think based on proof, this makes sense. We're going to get into this Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit Camp Nelson F. Just 101 proof. And I don't think these are age stated. It was bottled in May of this year. I'm going to like rinse the glass a little bit. All right. So I haven't purchased a Kentucky Spirit pick, or this isn't a pick, this is just a standard. I haven't purchased a Kentucky Spirit in 4 years. I have one in my basement. It's from a Tyrone warehouse. I don't remember which one, maybe K. Definitely not a Camp Nelson. So let's see how this ends up on the nose. Let me know if you've tried any of these more recently released Kentucky Spirits, especially the Camp Nelsons. Avery, I don't have a Buffalo Trace Junkies pick, so I'm having a Buffalo Trace Nugget store pick with you. Huh. Either way, I think most Buffalo Trace store picks, I've always liked them. I've always thought as daily sipper kind of profiles, it's just an elevated Buffalo Trace. You can usually find them $30-$35 if you find a store that's not going to gouge the crap out of them, and it's just a great option. It's always a buy two for me. Travis. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. All right, so on the nose, very cinnamon heavy on this Kentucky Spirit. There is a little bit of the turkey funk in the background, which I do appreciate. Like, first knee-jerk reaction is I like the profile on the nose. It feels mostly in balance, just a little bit, maybe a little bit too much of like a cinnamon bark or whatever, cinnamon stick kind of note on the nose. That's maybe the one thing that's out of balance with this. It shows decent age, which is nice. But the oak on here, while it does have turkey funk, let's say, the oak still feels a little bit dry on the nose. That's the best way to describe it, I guess. It feels a little bit of like a dry, smoky oak on the nose. All right, let's go to the palate. I like the palate. I like the palate way more than the nose on this. Yeah, it feels old. It feels very old. It is a little bit drying on the palate, but what comes into play that the nose didn't have is a little bit of a dry, dark fruit note. And so it does keep it, because fruitiness is showing up on the palate, it keeps it feeling a little juicier, even though I'm saying dry, dark fruit. Just the presence of fruit on the palate, because it's not on the nose, helps it not feel as dry as it could if that fruit note wasn't there. I don't know if that made sense. But yeah, I think the nose is just okay on this. It's a nice balance between like standard Turkey 101 profile and then maybe a more advanced oak profile that you get from a Russell's 10. You know, not quite Russell's 13 or anything like that, but you start to get into the oakiness and the turkey funk. So it is definitely a tweener bottle. It's in between kind of everything. To me, it's not a special pour. At the price point, I think it's fine. I don't know. I'm really kind of mixed on this first impression wise. If the nose did better for me, if it did as well as the palate, I think I would be like, okay, you know, I see the hype on some of these things. Good Lord. What is all over my freaking face? Well, don't clip that. Jesus. This microphone attracts like all sorts of dust and stuff. So if I get too close to it as I'm sipping whiskey. Anyways. What's up, guys? Cam, all your picks you've done, which is your favorite, says Dustin. All right. Finish on the Kentucky Spirit brings, like, palate and finish are just great. The finish in this is very peppery, leathery oak. It's just that nose I'm not a big fan of. Of all your picks, which is your favorite? Easily, my favorite is the first River Roots pick. A little biased because it was the first one, but also that barrel, I can't believe we got a barrel like that on our... Well, I can't believe we got one, period, but then also on our first go, it was like the stars aligned on that pick. So that would have to be my favorite. After that, it's like, I don't ever want to like rank my picks. It just seems so useless, I think. Because the idea of the picks, in my head, is not necessarily to like hang on to one of them for 2 years so you can compare it to something 2 years down the road. That seems a little silly. It's more just like, I like to pick these and have the idea that people are going to buy them and they're going to drink those bottles in a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and not hesitate to finish them off because we continue to pick things that are good. And hopefully we have our finger on the pulse of what the demand is in the Patreon of what people want. For instance, like we have another opportunity, it seems like, to get some more 12-year, 130-plus proof MGP rye, which is the oldest, highest proof that we would be picking. And it seems like people still want that stuff, even though we've picked 3 barrels of it already. So it's like, keep the finger on the pulse, keep picking those, satisfy demand, and then also continue to kind of stretch out and expand and try new things from different distilleries as long as we find products that are good enough to pick, which up to this point, we've had a couple moments at distilleries where we ask, like, hey, do you have anything else, And I was worried about having that moment when we were doing barrel picks. But every time, they've been fully accommodating to a request like that. We weren't like, hey, can we have 10 more options? But it's like, do you have something else we can try? And it's always like, yeah, we got 1 or 2 things. They pull it out. Sometimes we go for it, and sometimes we stick with what we had originally found in like the opening lineup. Yeah, anyways, I think favorite is the first one. And after that, I don't really want to talk about, rankings. I'm never going to do a live stream where I like blind all of my picks and find my favorite. I think that, to me, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense, I guess. God, yeah, I'm coming back to the Kentucky Spirit nose now. And it's just, it doesn't quite do it. It's like a bright strawberry candy / maraschino cherry note on here. And so it's interesting that you get this really, really bright fruit note on the nose that's starting to emerge, where everything else in the whiskey is like very, very dark and funky. Doesn't quite align for me. And then again, it just doesn't feel quite balanced on the nose either. But that palate right away, it is a little nutty, very woody up front. But I love that you get into the turkey funk on here. So, you know what? I do like this. I would never overpay. I think these are $50, maybe $60. I think it's worth having. This is Camp Nelson F. I've not tasted a whole slew of different warehouses and stuff, and they're all single barrels. So buy at your own risk. I like this. I think value-wise, I would just go Russell's 10, because Russell's 10 to me, even though the proof is 90, I think is just such a good product at a good price. And you get turkey funk for $40, and you get aged oak for $40. I can't complain about that. Clay sipping on a 2018 Russell CNF that's quite good. 5th floor. Does this say the floor on it? How do you know the floor? Oh, is it a pick that kind of gave you that information? Maybe that has more info on a neck tag or something. I don't have any. I've never had a pick of this. Just this shelfer, and then the previous one, like 4 years ago, was a shelfer. Jay Boogie says, the Kentucky Spirit did not do well in my blind with Russell's Single, Rare Breed, and Russell's 13. That makes sense, though. Proof-wise, big disadvantage. I think if you would have thrown in, like, Turkey 101 and Russell's 10, I'd be very interested in that blind. Yeah, Prescription Bourbon said tweener. Yeah, like sometimes with mallets, this is like nerdy percussion stuff. as you can imagine, you know, we all collect all this whiskey, and we want all the little different tastes and profiles and stuff. Mallets and drumsticks and stuff like that, it's all the same thing for percussion as well. You know, you have a mallet made out of ebonite, then you have a mallet made out of brass, aluminum, different kinds of phenolics and metals and stuff like this, and synthetics. So, like, mallet collections for percussionists are massive. And there are a couple mallets that we call tweeners. You know, it's like, oh, it's in between the red and the orange. Use this baby blue mallet. It'll be right between those. So, I always call those tweeners. Avery says, rather spend a little more and get the private barrel all day. Yeah, I think probably that's the... Like, unless you would found a Kentucky Spirit that is older somehow, I think, yeah, the Russell's private barrels are, you know. Hayden, going to New Riff on Saturday. A recommendation for bottles to pick up, considering getting the 8-year rye in both Silver Grove, but I haven't heard much about them. You know what? I've been to Party Source. I was there yesterday, actually. I have never actually walked in New Riff, so I don't know what the setup's like or what they usually have there. Some other people in the chat, I'm sure, will help you out, because I know, like, Joe, I think Will, some other guys have a lot of New Riff stuff, and I think they probably have to go to the distillery, I would imagine, to get some of it. All of the 8-year stuff I've had has been outstanding. All of the Silver Grove I've had has been outstanding. I don't know about a lot of, like, the different grain stuff that they do, like I don't even know what they're all called, the malteds or this or that. The one thing that I didn't like was the 8-year single malt. I would steer clear of that, but anything else from them has been a total winner for me. Travis, Silver Groves, they are so good, and they are so deceptive. They don't taste their age. They taste much older, to me at least. The malted sherry finish, I haven't tried that one, but maybe that would be solid. I would imagine it is. The malted rye is great. Aren't the Kentucky Spirits being discontinued? They probably are. I remember seeing something about that, but I don't keep up too much on... I didn't keep up too much on that. Wayne, of all the River Roots barrels you tasted, did any of those barrels have that sulfur note you sometimes... you know, I tend to not get sulfur on MGP ryes. The closest thing, I wouldn't call it sulfur. I would call it, again, people are going to give me crap, wet rock. Minerality a little bit on Funky Monkey that we picked. That was the most of that kind of a note that I got on any of those ryes. But otherwise, I would say most of the ryes that we tasted of the 12 with the Bourbon Junkies had a very clean profile. Like peppermint, like spearmint, peppermint, clean down the middle MGP rye profiles. And I think what we were looking for, I don't want to speak for the Junkies, but I think they found one that had a little more depth, gingerbread richness to it, and vanilla icing. And then we found our two extremes. I was just trying to steer clear of that down the middle profile. When you taste 12 of them, you start to kind of ascertain what the average is between all of them, and then I want to shoot outside of those averages if I can. Maureen, hey, we all know Cam's favorite pick is Sarah's Evernorth bottle, as is everyone's. Oh, God. Okay, I got to get down here, see what's going on. Clay, barrel picks of Kentucky Spirit, strictly shelfers now. Turkey 101 is being used as a barrel pick. That's what it is. So Turkey 101 picks in lieu of. I'll be interested to see what the ages are like on those, if they even disclose them. New Riff gift shop opens at 11. Sometimes they do a tasting on certain days where you sit around a round table. Oh, that's cool. Christine, Funky is one of my new faves. That's good news. I love to hear that. So guys, please remember, tonight's giveaway is only for folks that jump in the Patreon. So tonight, to enter the giveaway, it's join the Patreon in the $5 or $10 tier. 5 is 1 entry, 10 is 2. We'll draw for that on a Patreon-only live stream directly after this live stream. Just throwing that out there again. I haven't seen anybody jump in yet, but I just wanted to let you know. If anybody mistakenly Venmos me and wants in on Venmo, I will just refund that. That's fine. Wayne says that speaks for what River Roots demands from MGP. Good info. Yeah, and you know what? I actually don't know how that selection process works. I know they receive lot samples of some of these, you know, these lots of these different barrels that they're looking at. But I don't know if they actually have the ability to go to the brokers or the distiller, like whoever they're buying from, and say, can you give us something at this proof, this age, with this profile? Like, I don't know how picky and choosy they can get, or if it's just like, here's a lot sample, do you want the barrels or not? Because I think a lot of it happens that way. All right. Let's move on from the Kentucky Spirit. I'm going to leave this out, actually. I'll leave this out for the stream. All right, let's do... Okay, what do you guys think? Please help me in the chat. What do you think next? Do you want to go into some of the picks that we just did, the Hard Truth and the Green River, or do you want to get into, like, the Crittenden madness? We're not going to do Kings County yet. Or do you want to do H.K. Young? It's going to be a long stream. I'm just telling you, it's going to be like 2 hours at least. What do you guys think? I might go H.K. Young. It's 116. It is toasted, which kind of, you know, takes my palate a second to get used to. But proof-wise, this would be the next one up. Sladvan. Okay, seems like people want picks next. Let's do picks. Then we'll get into HK, and then maybe Kings, and then Crittenden's. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how we end up. All right. Let's do Hard Truth. Let's do Hard Truth. So I'd be curious, how many of you guys in the chat have purchased a Hard Truth barrel pick from a whiskey group or Patreon or, you know, store? And if the answer is yes, you have purchased one, what was the pick? Like, whose pick was it? I know that Mash and Journey's done a pick. I'm trying to think of who else has done a Hard Truth pick that I've seen. That might be the only one off the top of my head I can think of. And I have received a sample of that. Jeremy just have the Shelfer. Stuff and Whiskey did one. Okay. Cool. Tasted an Indiana Liquor Group pick, says Terry. Travis, it was 2 liquor stores. They were a little nutty sweet, close to each other in the batch too. Never seen a pick. I have 2 Hard Truth, Stuff and Whiskey, and Bourbon Judge. Okay, cool. So very quickly, here's the lowdown on this. And I learned a lot at Hard Truth. The master distiller Brian actually was the person that ran our pick, which was so cool. I don't know when this was, 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Joe W in the chat sent me a sample of Sweet Mash Rye Batch 1. Later sent me samples of the caramel malted, the chocolate malted, like some other variants of this. And those are like super interesting. I think they're not for everybody, but I really liked them. But Sweet Mash Rye Batch 1, I think was my favorite. I also tried Batch 5. This one just had this beautiful sweetness. It reminds me of an elevated Buffalo Trace profile. But when I say elevated, I mean like severely elevated. Much more intensity. It is barrel proof. It's this one's 115.2. But all that honey sweetness, like delicate spice, even though it is a rye, and it's 94% rye, 6% barley. It's a 94.6 mash bill. It's sweet mash, which means that they don't use any of the spent grains from the previous distillation run in the next distillation. Most everything you taste, and I'm sorry if this is old hat for some of you, most everything you taste on the market is a sweet mash whiskey. A sour mash whiskey. That's most of what you taste, which means that after the distillation run, they take, I think they were even saying sometimes 25% is like a common number. 25%, let's just say, for argument's sake, of the spent grain, and they reuse that in the next run of distillation, essentially like mixing that in with the fresh grains, going through the process again, and that way it ensures consistency. It does that to some degree, but it also stifles the flavor to some degree because you're using spent grains in that run. So when you do sweet mash, that means that every run is new grain in the mix. That has more opportunities for problems with consistency, but you do get a more flavorful profile. And then if you also combine that with a lower entry proof, you can get some very flavorful whiskey at 2, 3, 4 years old. stuff that you would never expect after tasting it is that age. So the point is, everything that Hard Truth does is sweet mash. That's kind of like their calling card, and it's very cool. Peerless does this, Wilderness Trail does this, but there's not a lot of folks on the market doing exclusively sweet mash stuff. So there you go. So batch 1 sweet mash rye. This is a few years old now. This is 2021 October. So this is, almost 3. And this is what we just picked, which is significantly higher proof, 115 versus this is 126.6. This is just over 5 years old. Look at the color of it, right? So very quickly, this is batch 1. Just give you a quick overview of the profile. Yeah, it literally smells like Elmer T. Lee at a high proof, to me on the nose. They don't all smell this way, but batch 1 in particular, that's how I've always thought of it. It smells like Mash Bill 2, Buffalo Trace at a very high proof with great intensity. Orchard fruits, summer fruits, great spice, but balanced spice with that honey profile. Fantastic. So I love this stuff. If you find a batch 1, buy 2. If they're still hanging around anywhere, 30 barrel blend. All right. So during our pick, we were first given 3 options. One was a bottled and bond option, lower proof. And what we learned is that they use 3 different kinds of barrels. They use 18 to 24 month, seasoned 18 to 24 month air dried. Where were these from? I think they're all Independent Stave Company. And they had I think it was called Cooper Select was that barrel type. You can look that up on the ISC website. That's like their standard orchard fruit, sweet, custardy, creamy profile, which really is like this batch 1 to me. That's how that comes off. Then they use wave stave barrels, and they also use spiral cut barrels. You can also look those up on the Independent Stave Company website. Just Google it. Wave staves, you'll see kind of why they're called that with the way they're cut, on the inside of the barrels. And then spiral cuts, as the name suggests, they first char the barrels, and then they cut out, it's a pretty tight spiral. They cut out the inside of the barrel in a spiral. So you have charred wood, and when you cut it after charring, you're then exposing it to green wood that has not been charred because it's been cut away. So those spiral cuts, give you this interesting accelerated aging kind of profile similar to wave staves. They just have a little different profile. Wave stave is smokier. Spiral cut is a little richer, let's call it. So what we ended up picking in our lineup, we had 3, again, presented with 3 at first. We had our heart set on 1, but we wanted to try 2 other options, and Brian allowed us to do that. Come to find out, we were in the camp of spiral cuts. We just love these spiral cut barrels. And this was, I think, a pretty easy choice that we landed on this one. So again, 5 years old, 126.6, spiral cut, and look at the color. This is a 5-year sweet mash rye. Okay, so on the note, that's the setup. Sorry for the long-winded, here we go. All right, so my worry always with wave staves and spiral cuts is that you're going to get too savory, barbecue, like rubbery qualities. And that tends to happen with certain kinds of distillate, and also if you use that barrel as a secondary barrel. Like, I've had some wave stave finished things that get way too dark and woody for me in a savory, kind of rubbery way, but they're often used as a double oaking. This has spent its entire life in a spiral cut. So this on the nose smells exactly like a caramel apple. It's rich. Like, it smells like this batch 1 with the honey and the orchard fruits with a layer of of liquefied caramel drizzled over it. And also kind of a root beer note in here too. So this is absolutely the darkest sweet mash rye that I've ever smelled from Hard Truth. And I'm glad that we found one like this. I compared this to some other, to another pick that I've got a sample of, and this was even darker. And previously I thought that pick was the darkest that I had ever, smelled and tasted from them. But this profile is crazy. It's very intense. Vanilla cream, like the front of the palate is root beer float, and then it starts to get into this this caramel apple thing I talked about. And then it's just like Werther's candy. So it does have a lot of this rye spice in the background that keeps it going. And it's like a pop roxy kind of spice. There's nothing herbal about this whatsoever. And that's not really their style anyways. But this spiral cut barrel has added this root beer float caramel apple note to a whiskey that's already got a lot of bright fruits, kind of a custardy vanilla profile. It's crazy. I'm so happy we got this barrel. Avery, this is the pick that we just did. So this is a Hard Truth pick that's going to be dropping. This is planned for October. And I'm trying to work it out that we drop this with the Green River at the same time, because the Green River is not going to have a high yield. Dude, this Hard Truth, though, I'm telling you, it's a really cool balance between the barrel, which it's not a finishing barrel, but it adds a quality that makes it almost feel slightly double oaked. And I don't like double oaked, but it adds just a teeny bit of this thing where you're like, wow, I can really taste the barrel here. And then when you get it on the palate, it leads off with that, and that's very rich and decadent. But then underneath it, it starts to kind of crescendo with these brighter, more like orchard fruit and, again, pop rock spice notes. So bottle count on this is going to have a lot. This is going to be like 180 to 210 bottles. We don't know exactly yet, but yield is very high on this. But then the Green River is going to be like 120 to 130. I think if I just drop the Green River and it sells out super fast, people are going to be bummed they didn't get anything. And so I think dropping these together is going to save people on shipping. And, you know, I think this Hard Truth is a really cool complement to the Green River as well. Joe, this is, yeah, so Joe was part of the pick, and he says that, yeah, so we were told that the spiral cuts were terrible initially. When they ran their tests, you know, their sensory tests on the products in those spiral cuts after like 1 year, he said it was sludgy and gross, and that they had to have patience for them to age into this profile, which is kind of crazy to think about. He thought he'd get fired. Yeah, he did say that. Yeah, Travis, it's just because it's a spiral cut. It's really hard to believe. Yeah, I think people are going to be very happy about this black cherry syrup note now kind of developing for me. All right. Dustin, I agree with you, man. These distilleries, I think, are finding really cool ways, especially with their pick programs, to present their younger whiskeys in these dark colors, but present them in a way that doesn't feel forced, still maximizing the flavor. Man. Joe says the YouTuber picks are very different from the staff blends. That's interesting. I don't think we tried. We saw them in the gift shop, but I don't think we tried the gift shop version at any point. Man. So good. All right. So with that said, let's and again, anybody that jumps into the Patreon tonight, jumping into the giveaway, I'll throw samples of this one in here because I have enough to go with all those previous picks. Okay. Let's move on to the Green River since people wanted to hear about the picks next, and then we'll get back into kind of some of the marathon tastings that we're doing. Fresh glass for this. So this is kind of the star of the show. I mean, the Hard Truth is epic, and the bottle count is high, and I'm very happy about how that turned out. I did not expect to get something like that at Hard Truth. I thought, to me, because I only really had experience with this batch one and, you know, this other pick, I was expecting something brighter, and the fact that we found the dark one is cool. But listen, this Green River. Oh God. Oh God. All right, we'll go through this one. I'll tell you about the pick in a second. Okay. Travis. Some guy said he did some shady things yesterday for a taste of that Green River in a parking lot. Yeah, Jeffrey Wack. I poured him some in the parking lot of the Party Source. Sladvan, how do you compare your Green River pick to the bourbon in the barn bottle? I have it. We can do that. I didn't totally want to do that. I guess it is a point. It's a point of reference for people that have this bottle. So we can do that. Yeah, that's the right one. Toshi says, yo, just did a 50-50 Chunky Monkey and 23 GTS. Outrageous. Rye spice still kicks, but it's sweet too. Interesting. That's a cool blend. All right. So let's just talk about our Green River pick first quickly. We had a great pick group. We did this on Tuesday of this week. They rolled out 4 barrels for us, and we ended up tasting an additional 2, which was very useful because one of the barrel that we ended up on was one of those additional 2. They knew the yields of these barrels up front. They weigh them before they put them in the pick program. So they were like, this is going to be, of the 2 new ones that we ended up tasting, and we came down to it, they were like, this one is going to be 120 to 130-ish bottles. It's not going to be a lot. To me, that means probably concentrated flavor. So let's try it. But we ended up doing a blind at the end of the pick, and it was a very tough decision. But I'll say that this did come out on top. I think it was almost unanimous in the blind at the end. So let's quickly talk about like typical Green River profile. It's all over the place. I think the foolproof for me is like a little bit of a brighter toned fruit note with great spice. That's 117.3 proof. There's a little bit of watermelon in there. And then just kind of standard, kind of classic Kentucky notes. The Junkies' first pick they did was from a Kelvin barrel, super dark color. That one tasted almost like a blackberry-infused stag product or something. It was crazy. 7 years old Kelvin barrel, that's going to do that for you. And then some of the other picks I've had have varied between, some of them are very nutty. Some of the barrels that we've tried on different occasions have been super nutty, almost taste like larceny. And then others get into like, I don't know. They just range a lot. So our pick that we've got is 132 proof, which is crazy. I didn't expect any of them to be this hot. 132 proof. It's 5 years old. 5.5 years old. Are the Green River picks that drastically different than the Shelfer versions? Yeah, I think so. The picks just range. There's a lot of range to them. And I like that because when we went into the pick and we had those initial 4, glass 1 smelled super buttery and nutty. And that was the same exact experience I had on the Sealbox pick that they did, where their glass 1 smelled buttery and nutty. And I'm like, maybe that's something they do in the picks. They choose that profile for your first glass, but it was an easy elimination for us. Then we were going between 2, 3, 4. 1 just tasted like cherry syrup, but it was kind of flat. Great profile, though. 1 was a little bit more of this intense dark fruit thing, and then the other one was somewhere in between. And then of the 2 that they rolled out at the end, we had another kind of buttery, nutty one, and then we had the one that we settled on. So this, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm looking at the chat real quick. Slad fan. Gonna blend funky and the Amroot collab and ruin my taste buds. that might do it. That's hilarious. I am not exaggerating on the nose. Okay, let me just give you notes first before I make this bold claim that people are gonna be like, no, you're just trying to hype your picks. So let me not go there first. On the nose. This is creamy, like this is buttercream frosting. It is like, it's just super rich, classic caramel notes. I know this doesn't sound exciting yet. There is this kind of spiced, perfumed grape note in the background. So, okay, so those are me, that's me, and like a little bit of this bright kind of white pepper spice, sure. And it is a little proofy on the nose. But I'm going to tell you what it smells like. I'll show you what it smells like. I said this at the pick. Like, we didn't know any stats about this or anything else. I smelled it, and I go, that smells like Old Fitz. And so last night, again, I'm going to be very particular about the way I say this. I compared this to the Old Fitz 17 side by side. Yes, the Old Fitz 17 is oakier. It is more rich sweet oak. Of course it is. It's 17 years old. But the profile of this Green River pick and what made it totally stand out for us was that it has this intense creaminess to it and depth of flavor and concentration that I have never tasted on a Green River product. It is remarkable. It actually smells a little bit more like Old Fitz 15 on the nose, but it smells like a weeder almost, like because of that. It's so crazy. I mean, to me, this drinks like barrel proof Old Fitz. I can't believe it. And it's not nutty. I'm telling you. The fact that they have barrels like this is so crazy. Wow. Wow. I have goosebumps. I mean, this barrel is so crazy. I'm so glad we picked this in the blind because we all I think a lot of us flip-flopped on the blind. We had this assumption of this one is this and that one's that. And we had all flipped to this barrel. This is crazy. This is crazy. And it's going to be like, what, $70? Or I don't know what these go for. I don't know SRP yet, but I cannot believe this whiskey. So I'm not trying to overhype it. No, it doesn't have as much oak as this. But the actual profile is almost identical to me of Old Fitz, but obviously dialed up to 132 proof, so it's going to rip your face off a little bit. That barrel is going to drop. Also, I'm going to shoot for this barrel to drop in October with the Hard Truth, towards the end of October. They said they're going to bottle this in September, so I think if all goes well, we can time the pickups at Hard Truth and Green River. I'm hoping we can time those to work out where we can drop them at the same time. I mean, this may be the best bourbon pick we do this year. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't want to compare it. I would say this on a value perspective, this is easily going to be the best bourbon pick we do this year because like I'm reading in the chat now, Travis says 59 to 69 is what I see him go for. If this is that price, then the value is off the freaking charts. It's crazy value. So once the pick team gets theirs and I get mine, this is going to sell out very quickly in the Patreon. Like, I'm hoping it makes it to the $10 tier. This pick may not make it to the 10 because the yield could be low enough that it doesn't. I would hate if that happened, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I asked for 2 barrels. I did, but I didn't figure they would, bite on that. But Karen and Wes from Green River are the bomb. It was such a fun pick, and we had a great time. Devin, I'm going to talk to River Roots tomorrow and see if we can work out, if the timing would work out to pick another rye in September, drop it in November, and then maybe try to find one other thing. I'd like to find something affordable to drop in November with a with a River Roots rye pick. So I don't know exactly yet. I got to think through this and see what we can do. Joe says, makes sense to me. Green River has that same Heaven Hill earthy oak note. I had never connected the two until this pick. Actually, you know what? That's not entirely true. On those barrels that we've gotten in the seal box pick, glass 1 for that one and glass 1 for us, the one that's very nutty and has some similarities to this with the creaminess, but it was so overly nutty and buttery that I was like kind of turned off by it. That does remind me of like a straight up larceny profile, but this one to me is like Old Fitz, which I guess does track that we found a great barrel in that profile and it ends up tasting like that. So yeah, I guess maybe there is a connection, but I don't think all of their stuff reminds me of Heaven Hill. Not all of it has this note. So speaking of that, let's go on to this Junkies. I haven't done this comparison. So this is a Bourbon in the Barn bottle, and I love this bottle when we were at Bourbon in the Barn. The color is like, might even be darker than the one that we picked. They're close. They're close. Okay. So the Junkies pick is like, it basically smells to me like the barrel that we had in our blind against the one that we picked. It's darker dried fruit notes to it. It doesn't have that same creaminess. It is a spicier, fruitier profile overall, which was the tough decision that we had to make. Like, I actually get blueberries on the nose of their pick. It's very berry forward to me. It's grape, it's blueberry, a little bit of a dried note of both of those. And I get like a more of a char and black pepper. Whereas ours is I would say much sweeter. Ours is much sweeter. Again, has that kind of sweet wheat profile to it. And theirs, I think, is a little bit more like robust. Theirs is so spicy. It's very, very spicy, and I think people that like that kind of profile, if they like drier, dark fruit profiles and spice, that would be up your alley. I think that's a fantastic pick. And the back end is like a leathery oak note. Yeah. And I that's one thing I do pick up on Green River quite often on the finish, is like a really nice leather note when you get a good pick. And then back to ours. Wow. They are total opposites, I think, profile-wise. Ours now, to me, is developing a crazy cherry note by comparison. And I really like the richness and sweetness of what we picked. So, yeah, I think that's going to be something that, you know, people are going to enjoy this Green River. It's going to sit in the barrel one more month before they bottle it. So hopefully it only gets better. Tom, are most of the better picks north of 120? I don't know. I think when we were picking with Sealbox, I believe there was a sub 120 in there. It might have been a 119.6 or something. I believe our range of picks that we had was between 121 or 122 up to 132. I think when Matt Porter picked his the other day on his channel, which we saw his barrel there, it had, you know, his sticker on it, which is cool. He picked, I think, a 122, which was similar to one of our glasses, which was, I think, around 122 also, and it was like a cherry bomb. So if that's the kind of profile he went for, that would be very cool, because that would be, between the Junkies and ours and Matt's, would be three completely different profiles. So I need to go back and watch what his notes were on the one that he picked. So I don't know. I mean, I can't really assess if they're better. I think I've had great barrels from them from 120 up to now 132. Marshall, you may have answered this already. Is Going Nuts more of a Nom Creek or Baker's or Booker's profile? This is a tough question to answer because the answer is none of the above. I'm picking up my bottles tomorrow, and I'm going to be giving away 2 bottles of that, plus a bunch of other stuff on next week's live stream. So I don't have any more of my sample left. So let me taste the bottle now that it's actually come out of the barrel. It's spent a few extra months in the barrel. It could have changed a little bit. Let me taste where it's at now when I get it tomorrow, and I'll get back to you on that. So we're going to give away 2 of those next week, plus a bunch of bottles that I've picked up on my kind of travels recently. A whiskey blendery bottle that people are going to go crazy for, this old school oak thing that they've done. I want people to try this stuff because it's so cool. There's a few other things too. I can't even think off the top of my head what they are. But next week I'm going to give away a bunch of bottles because I just want people to try the things that we've had on the road. So, anyways, Casket Salesman. Yeah, and then they used to proof their picks down to 119, Green River did. So before they allowed them to be cask strength, they were always just bottled at full proof. And those were good. And the Junkies was the best that I had at that proof. Maybe, I mean, the Junkies' first pick was crazy. That Kelvin barrel was so good. Avery, not to get off subject, you're going to get the Glen cases made. It sounds like we are. So for anybody in here who might be interested, I've been working. It's not confirmed yet. So don't hold me to this. These are the Glen cases that I use, and the great part about them is that they actually, oh geez, come on. They actually fit the glasses I use, which are a little bit taller and a little bit wider. They fit those, and they also fit aged in ore neat glasses. So it's this kind of like faux leather with this interior, but the good thing is the interior barely has a smell to it. Most cases like this smell so industrial, and then you pull the glasses out and you have to like scrub them before you can use them. This is like the least smelly case, and I got these from Bourbon Outfitter years ago. They had these blank ones, and then they had branded ones, and we're gonna get some Drums and Drams branded cases like this so that when people order barrel picks, they can tag this, they can add this on for $30 or so, which is a great price to hold 4 of these. Add it on for $30 and, you know, help offset some of that, you know, shipping cost. You get a little more bang for your buck, maybe. Richard says, oh, there was a 25 left. I'm still only going to go 2 entries if you're okay with that, because I didn't expect there to be a 25 open. I thought we were sold out in that tier. So we'll just do 2 entries for that if you're cool. If you really want the 5 entries, talk to me. We'll figure out a solution on that. Maybe we'll add you into the giveaway next week or something. But I would like to stick it to 1 and 2 so it's a little more fair, because I didn't expect that to be open. That must be a very new opening, because I checked it earlier today. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, please hit that like, guys. Tosha, who do you got between Izzy or Dricus Duplessis for 305? I don't know, man. Dricus, I haven't watched a lot of his fights, to be real with you. I want Izzy to win, even though I think Izzy's been a little insufferable about that whole rivalry. It's been a little annoying to me. When he got in the ring and like did all that and was dropping, you know, the N-bombs and stuff, I just thought all that was like, I didn't like that. I just thought that was a little classless. And I know that he's like fired up and stuff. Who knows how much he was trying to cut a promo at the time, or actually he felt those emotions. Hard to tell. Even with that, I still would like Izzy to win, because I want to see Izzy fight Sean Strickland again. I don't want to see Dricus Duplessis and Sean Strickland fight again. I have no interest in that, because the last time I feel like it could have gone either way, but I do feel a little bit like Sean was robbed. All right. Tom says, I think I have a 126. I think talking about Green River, I thought it'd be on the higher end. Well, no, that is normal. It's these, I think these picks, like the Junkies is 130.2 and ours is 132. These are outliers from my experience. You don't typically see them at this proof. And when they told us that our pick was 132, it's like, I would have never guessed, because it doesn't drink like 132 at all. It's intense, but it's not hot. Joe, I would love to. I don't know if they have any more of that. I have to talk to those guys. Oh, so we got a couple people jumping in the Patreon, which is cool. So we will actually have a giveaway there. So again, you can see the scrolling thing at the bottom. Tonight's giveaway, if you jump in the Patreon tonight, $5 tier is 1 entry, $10 tier is 2 entries, and we'll draw for that on a separate live stream right after this stream. That'll be Patreon only, so keep an eye on your Patreon feed after this live. Okay. The Junkies pick, what does it remind me of? It's almost Buffalo Tracy now. It's almost a little stag-like in some ways. Like I was talking about dry, dark fruit notes on there and very intense and more black pepper and char. I would say if I had to relate that to anything, I would relate that to like a Stag Junior, I mean. Whereas our pick is totally Old Fitz. So it's kind of like a clash of titans a little bit, you know, in profile. All right, let me grab a few more glasses. Whew, God, I am so sore. When you start working out again, it is just like hell on earth. Got 160 in here. That's great. Just listen to me complain. Please hit that like button on your way in, guys. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you. By the way, Adam McIntyre, has been sent up some samples of all sorts of things. So again, I told you guys we're working on merch slowly but surely. So we've just got a couple of samples of different hats and different styles. Styles of hats, styles of, leather on the hats, colors, this and that, with some of the different Drums and Drams logos. Here's another one. This one's a pretty classic kind of design. I feel like a lot of people have hats like this. I've got some from other brands like that. As well as, some leather coasters. This one's probably my favorite. I like that circle design on the circle coasters. So I'm going to kind of write down some thoughts, and we're going to keep talking about this and see what we can do. But, we'll have some different options. These I think, are made to order, which is cool. It means we don't have to buy a bunch up front. So thanks to Adam for sending those along. Got some keychains behind me too, and some glass, leather glass holders, and some notebooks as well. Richard Sneeze says, very interested in your thoughts on the Crittendens. I've heard some good stuff about them. I've heard only good stuff, which, again, I've heard that from people that don't like crafty tasting whiskey. So I thought, well, maybe it's not as crafty as I would have imagined. Johnny says, Cam, you've blown up so much, Green River won't make it out of Patreon. No, it won't even make it out of the $10 tier. But that's because the hype behind Green River right now is huge, deservedly so, and also the yield on that barrel's low. And the profile, when you describe it, I'm not going to lie, it literally tastes like barrel-proof old Fitz. Terry says, decent travel cases for Stolzle glasses aren't easy to find. Yeah, that's why I love these so much. I'm with, Toshi, just drop the Africa beef, just fight. Because I'm not invested in that beef. There are some UFC rivalries you're invested in the backstory. I am so not invested in. I don't care about that. I just want to see those two guys fight. In fact, I gotta say, Drickus is just not that exciting to me. I'm just not invested in him, which is maybe why I selfishly want Izzy to win. So, anyways, all right, quickly, let's do a one-off here. H.K. Young. I don't remember if I've tasted this. I'm sorry if I have. Sorry if I'm rehashing. I can't keep track of things in the last 4 weeks. It's just been a lot. Scott, just completed my first barrel pick with my bourbon group. It's a Crittenden's barrel pick. Where can I send you a bottle? Scott, shoot me an email, man. That'd be awesome if you're sure about that. I'm excited. Well, before we do that, let me taste these Crittendens right now. Let me make sure I don't want you to waste a bottle on me if the profile is just not up my alley. Kagan, Cam, about to head to my local liquor store right now. Both Isaac Bowman and 1792 single barrel are new in store. Which one? Chat, please share your opinions on this. I would probably say the 1792. It's a little riskier being a single barrel. I like the Bowman Port, but I've never reached for that bottle. I've owned that bottle for 4 years, and I've never reached for it. So I would go 1792 probably. Yeah, it looks like some others are agreeing. The Bowman Port, I think you can get that profile elsewhere, and you might actually end up with a really nice 1792 single barrel. So, okay, it's pretty unanimous, it looks like. Richie, are you going to the Mash Journey? No, I'm not going to be going to that. I can't remember what day it is. I think I'm busy that day. Probably if it's late September, which I believe it is, I definitely have a performance. Because I start performances back last 2 or 3 weeks of September. Nick Leone says signed up. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. HK Young. This is a company. It's a new company. This says batch. The batch name is Gambit. It is batch 116.6. Barrel strength, 6-year age statement. Love to see an age statement. Excuse me. It does say toasted barrel blend. Does this say toasted whiskey? You guys know I'm not a big toasted fan. My favorite toasted recently has been Peerless by a mile. I love everything Peerless does with secondary barreling. I think is pretty much as good as it can get, you know? The price does reflect that, though. So this is less expensive. I want to say this is like around 80. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody looks this up very quickly. I talked to one of the owners back and forth a little bit about possible barrel picks and, you know, what they're thinking. Their idea is that they want to do very few barrel picks. They want their product to speak in these batches. They're shooting for really curating these batches with the profile that they have in mind, as opposed to doing a lot of barrel picks. So that's kind of what they're doing. They're not excluding barrel picks, but there's only going to be a few here and there. And we've talked about the possibility of doing a long-term project of selecting the barrel before it ever gets finished and then tracking its progress through the toasted barrel, you know, as the pick goes on. So I don't know if that's going to end up happening, but either way, I did pick this up because I was curious about it. So this has a lot of like cigar box notes to it, like cedar. It's a nice mix of that cedar note, but also kind of a similar note that I was getting on the Green River, which I said was a buttercream frosting almost. This is like a buttercream frosting and cedar on the nose. I'm also picking up, like, if you ever had in a cocktail when they use the torch on the little slice of orange on a cocktail, that kind of a note. It definitely smells toasted, I should say that. Like, even me as somebody that's not a big fan of toasted, it feels balanced on the nose, and that's why I want to talk about it today, because I am curious. And I did pay for this bottle. This was not provided. I want to be clear. Yeah. It's smoky. In like a bourbon smoky, not a Scotch smoky way on the palate. But, you know, this balances the toasted barrel, sweetness and spice and smoke very well with the base distillate. So I think this is a really, really solid option as a toasted product on the market. I wish I had like one of the Junkies toasted products to compare this to. But again, I don't buy a lot of that toasted stuff. I do like this. It's like a campfire bourbon to me. This is like a outdoors campfire pour for me. I'm just shocked that I like it, you know? Because usually this profile is such a turnoff. Wow, the chat. I've missed a lot in the chat. What's up, Brian? Good to see you, dude. Yeah, Joe. Exodus Rye is very toasted. That one was a little too toasted for me, but everybody around me was loving it. So when that happens, I know that it's just a personal preference thing, and so there's no reason for me to say, oh, I don't like that pour, because I know it's just me. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat here, guys. Jeremy, no vids late September. No, we're going to be back in a flow here. It's just the travel that's been killing me. And I'm able to get ahead at work starting next week as well, like in preparation for the season, all the admin work. I can get ahead. So I think the balance between work and the channel is going to be pretty fine, actually. Derek just cracked into Exodus tonight. Really enjoying it so far. Richie, Cam, what does a toasted barrel do to a bourbon profile? I have no clue and not much toasted experience. You know, Richie, it can vary. It's an extremely wide variance of things that it can do. Like this is the Peerless toasted, so I'll put this next to the HK Young. And the Peerless is quite a bit more expensive. I want to say like $50 to $60 more maybe per bottle. On the Peerless, I don't think you get an age statement. I don't know that they would not tell you if you asked, but I don't think it's on the bottle. Yeah, I don't think it's on here. It's 111, so it's a slightly lower proof. But just as a comparison, Peerless, again, being sweet mash. Don't know anything about the toast levels of these barrels. Peerless is a much softer toasted profile. Very rich, sweet fruit notes on there, with just a hint of that kind of, again, like cedar. I would say Richie Cedar's a big note that you can get off of toasted products, especially like new age ones. And what I mean is, if you go back to Woodford Double Oaked, which is kind of like the OG in 1910, those have no trace of what I would call like a modern toasted profile, which is that really spicy, smoky, kind of overbearing addition of cedar, smoke, sometimes like this intense creamy thing that it adds to it. But the Woodford Double Oak, to me, it just gets sweet and adds depth, and the 1910 kind of adds like a chocolate note. So it just totally depends on the barrels you're using, the toast levels, the base bourbon, how it is going to accept that, addition. But the HK Young is definitely like very, very toasted feeling. But even still, it strikes a good balance. I don't think it's overboard. Almost like a mocha on the nose. Like almost like a mocha thing. Hot chocolate and coffee a little bit. Tom, what's the most you'd pay for a holiday rick house? I gotta crack my back. I don't know. I've never had any of that stuff. I've only had the Bourbon Lore blend. Which was good. It didn't blow me away, but it was good. Joe says Peerless Toasted is 5 years old. Okay. Joe says no marshmallow. I guess, yeah. I guess marshmallow. That's the creaminess that I'm getting on it. Yeah, we could say marshmallow. To me, it's more like there's so much of that cedar note that it kind of makes it feel a little bit grittier. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe that. But I think yes. I think marshmallow is a good call. But that's not where my mind went, just because of the intensity of the wood on the nose. I like it. But that's about as toasted as I would want to get. And the Peerless, wow. The Peerless has really, by comparison, it's really tame. So, all right. Let's keep moving here. I would recommend that bottle. I think if you like toasted products, this is one to pick up. But you got to like that modern toast profile. It's not like a Woodford Double Oak toast. Okay, we got 3 fresh glasses. All right, guys, I got a couple of Venmo Super Chats here. I want to say thank you to a few folks. And if you did Venmo me thinking you were entering the giveaway, I will happily refund you guys. Because, again, the giveaway is for people joining the Patreon tonight. I wanted to be clear about that. It's in the thing at the bottom. I know we're kind of used to a certain system, which we'll be back to next week. But tonight I just wanted to encourage people to get into the Patreon. And as a thank you, throw them into a very small randomizer where they can get all the previous Drums and Drams picks. Just samples of those, so they can taste the portfolio that we've kind of developed, and then hopefully they'll choose to stick around in the Patreon if they enjoy those pours. Lawrence Chang, thank you, man. $5 super chat says, I was both surprised and not surprised at how meticulously you packaged your package. Thanks again. Can't wait to froth it. Team Vanilla. That's funny, man. Yeah, I'm very meticulous about packaging things. All the olive oil. Zach Butler said, in for 2. Zach, I will happily, I can refund you or I can throw you in next week's giveaway, man. You let me know. I'll just ask you on here, refund or do you want in on next week's giveaway? I'll just ask you there on Venmo in case you don't see it right now. Amy says, cheers, Cam and fam, $20. Thank you, Amy. Cheers to you. Good to see you tonight. Marshall says cheers as well. $20 super chat. Thank you. And Art Sanchez, same thing. $20 super chat with a little pizza emoji. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Say thank you with little Kentucky Spirit. Joe, are you talking about the Peerless? If it's Peerless, I think it's batch 1. Yeah, the Peerless is batch 1. What are you talking about, Brian, at the price point? Scott says, I tried the Patreon, but it wouldn't let me. Why wouldn't it let you? I'm not sure, Scott, actually. I'm not sure why that would be. Have you been in the Patreon before? I thought you may have already been in the Patreon. Johnny, Cam's package is packaged gingerly. Everyday reviews. No, I just want to do it for new folks. New folks who haven't had the chance yet to try our picks. Because, again, it's just about, like, I want to get the samples of our picks out to people as much as possible, and I thought this would be, like, hopefully a good way to do it. If it was stupid, I'm sorry. I'll take the L on that, you know? Oh, the Frank August rye. I didn't even know they had a rye. A few more glasses. Let's do some King's Family Distillery next. So a lot of people have been talking about this distillery to me. Travis has given me some samples here. And so I think we have 5 samples, 5 glasses. Let's just do it down the line, kind of knee-jerk reaction on all of these pours. We're going to go lowest proof to highest proof. But there is an Ambarana finish, so I'm going to save that for the end of the flight. Slide Van says King's Family Honey Ryconic. I do have that in here. That's what this one is. This is a Honey Cask Ryconic Double Oaked 95.5. I don't know if yours that you're talking about is Double Oaked. I think this looks like a pick. Or it's a single barrel at the very least. Raconteur Batch 2 is September, guys. I think maybe some folks have media samples. I'm not entirely sure. I saw somebody... Oh, Perry. Perry posted that he was tasting it. So I don't know if media samples are going out for that. I did get one for Batch 1, but I said I was going to do a video for it, and then I did it on a live stream. I talked about it, I think, maybe twice, but I forgot to make a video, so I do feel bad about that. So if Rarebird doesn't send me like a media sample this time around, I would totally understand. Also, there's frankly, like, he probably doesn't need to send media samples to people because it's gonna sell, you know. I think it's about I want to say it was 1,000 bottles when I'm not sure. Why do I have 1,000 bottles in my head? I read the press release earlier. Maybe that's not right, but Jay says, Jay, I've been hardly looking at the chat, man. Sorry, I've been in my own world. Well, I'm looking for what you said, Jay. Cam is ignoring me. I would too. All right. Cam likes toasted. Okay, you know what? You know what, Jay? Oh, Seal Box will get some this go around. Yes, 1,000 bottles. Okay, cool. Brad Schaefer, what's the holy grail of bourbon picks? Where would you want to pick from the most? That's tough. I'm going through legacies in my head right now. Turkey's always Turkey's up there for sure. I have my fingers crossed that we could make that happen in the future. Will it? I think if I have to be totally honest, I'm still running through the legacies right now. Of picks that exist also, because it's like I would love to go to Heaven Hill and pick a 20-year Heaven Hill, but that doesn't exist. Will it? I would say if you had access to some of their older things that are not Willet distillate, it would be Willet. Devin, you're evil, dude. My holy grail would be a Craigellachie. And I guess I wasn't even thinking about whiskeys outside of America. Obviously, King of Kentucky barrel pick. Jay, I love you, bro. Come on. I would have to say Willet, because the Willet picks exist. And this isn't a made-up world where they would say, hey, yeah, we have these 15-year barrels sourced that have been sitting here. In that world, I would pick one of those. Okay. Rare breed pick would be amazing, says Brad. Yeah, for me, again, if I'm going realistic, a Russell's pick. 100,000,000% a Russell's pick. All right, let's get into this King's County. I always say King's County. King's Family. King's Family Distillery. So up first is a single barrel 99 corn bourbon. 8-year, 107 proof. This is $46. That is a ridiculous deal. 8-year age stated, 99 corn, $46. Yeah. So, you definitely smell the corn grain. Very honey forward on this. More of like a gritty, grainy honey. Smells like Cheerios. And then it has the note that I don't like in a lot of MGP, which is that yeasty vanilla note, which makes everything feel young. Even if it's in a 9-year hazmat, which I just experienced, it makes everything feel young. And this does have that, even at 8 years old. But at $46, there's not a lot to complain about here. You can tell that it's 99 corn on the palate. It's kind of there and it's gone. There's no spice that helps develop it. It's just a sweetness that hits the front of your palate, has a nice pop at 107 proof, and then immediately starts to trail off, as opposed to having any kind of ramp up of development. But that's what you get when you have this mash bill. A totally fine option as kind of an everyday daily sipper, $46 with an 8-year age statement at a solid proof. You can drink it. You can not think about it. Yeah, that's a fine whiskey. I wouldn't be picking one of those up. But if that's in your price range and you're looking for an easy sipper, King's Family, single barrel, 8-year, high corn, there you go. Solid. Sladvan, more importantly, what's Sarah's Holy Grail pick? I don't know. She's not a big Four Roses fan. She's not a big Buffalo Trace fan, unless it's like BTAC. So let's think. I could see her going like Heaven Hill, but she might also go turkey. She really likes Russell's 13. So if you could find a private select, or what do they call? Do they call them private selection? I can't remember what Russell's calls them, but if you found a Russell's pick that was like a Russell's 13, she'd be all over that. Travis says barrel proof's around 110 to 111, so this is close to barrel proof. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, Brian. Yeah, I would do a Michter's 20 pick if I had to. The pick would cost $1,000, says Matt. Yeah, it would, but it would be cool though. Okay. Jack Daniel says, Travis, I like Jack and I want to go pick it, Jack. It's not my favorite profile, but I'd be so curious to see what we could find on a pick there, Richie, I've had Johnny Drum, but I don't remember it. I've only had it on the Willet tour and one other time in my life. So I don't have like the notes in my head for that one. Okay, let's move on quickly to 109.3 proof, 7-year. This is the single barrel honey cask Ryconic double oaked MGP rye. So 95.5 MGP. I don't know if this was put in a honey. Travis, maybe fill me in if you know this. Is it honey cask and then double oaked, or are they calling the honey cask the double oaking? Is that what that's referring to? But again, 7-year, 109.3. This is $90, so twice as much as the previous. Ooh, okay. I like this on the nose. All right. This was placed in a honey cask after being double oaked, says Travis. Yeah, so this has notes. We were just talking about Raconteur. Raconteur, because of the Mizunara cask especially, at least I would attribute what I'm going to say to that. It has like this light, airy, I've used the word creamy so much tonight. I'm so sorry. I mean, it's probably the most I've ever said that word in one, 90-minute sitting, but it adds this light, airy, creamy thing to the Raconteur. This tastes kind of like the Raconteur Pro, or smells kind of like the Raconteur profile without that, with a little more brash intensity. You can smell the 95.5 very herbal, intense thing crawling up your nose, but it also has that honey cask on it. And the double oaked is playing in there too to add some richness. So the honey doesn't feel too sweet. There's something else with the spice of the rye and the double oak that's taming the honey down. Oh, it's so good. It's just delicious. You just want to drink that. Wow. It's a little flat on the palate. My only complaint. And that's what honey typically will do to a whiskey. When you finish in honey, oftentimes it takes everything and just mutes it from front to back. So it kind of kills the development on the palate a lot of times. Yeah. But that makes it feel a little bit more crushable and sweet. So it's kind of a trade-off. Brett, what were we talking about the veggie straw note? What was the pour we were talking about for that? Sorry, Richard and Scott, I haven't gotten there yet. We have got 3 more Kings counties, and then we'll get there. Kings family, not Kings County. All right, next. So the honey finish, I like it. Again, it's unique. It's a cool balance. I don't think it's perfectly executed, but I don't know that I've ever had a perfectly executed honey cask finish when it comes to balancing the development of the palate. So taking that into account, $90, it's a little steep for me, but I think a lot of people are going to like that whiskey, especially if you like honey finish stuff. That will be interesting for you. Up next is a single barrel wheated MGP 6-year for $60. So we've lowered in price, 51 corn, 45 wheat, 4 malted barley. That kind of standard MGP wheated mash bill. It's a single barrel, 111.2 proof. I just want to compare it to the first 8-year high corn. Wow, you can really smell that Cheerios note on the high corn. The wheated nose is nice. It's very vanilla forward, very sweet, light. Still has a bunch of white pepper spice to it. But it's like fluffy white cake on the nose to me. All of these are so interesting on the palate. I haven't had one of these Kings yet that has a steady ramp up to the palate. They're either the high corn fell off quick, the honey just coasted and was kind of dulled down by the honey sweetness, and this wheat is, as you would expect from 45% wheat in a mash bill, it also kind of coasts along, but along the way, it's peppery the whole way with no development. So it's not like the pepperiness ramps up. It just is a constant peppery sensation with this white cake sweetness I was talking about. But this one, I think, to me, shows the most potential out of those 3. And interestingly enough, the price point, $60, 6 years old, a solid 111 proof. So far, I think this is probably my favorite, this wheated, which this is typically not a mash bill that I'm a big fan of. Yeah. There's a little bit of a berry note in there, too. I think I talked about blueberry earlier on the Junkies Green River pick. This has like a whisper of a blueberry note kind of the whole way. It's not in the forefront though. All right, on to number 4. So that shows promise. That's my favorite. I'd probably buy that at 60. I'd be willing to buy that. But I'm just really picky on sourced MGP nowadays, especially when it comes to stuff that is under 10 years old, maybe. Like Backbone, those guys are masters at 7, 8, 9 year MGP and making those things just freaking scream. You know, they just, when I say that, I mean on your palate. I mean on your palate. They make those things so intense and rich and full of flavor. And however they do it, whether it's the way they source the barrels or rebarreling or I don't know, they're so good at that. A lot of places get these sourced MGPs, and because there's so much of it on the market, you have to be picky. It just is what it is. Colin, what's up from your newest Patreon member? Thank you, man. Someone snipped that. Jeremy, no. Okay, next. This one is the one I'm the most interested in. So, Travis, you got to tell me more about this. It looks to be $89.99. It got cut off a little bit. King's Family Distillery Red, White, and Blue Bourbon. It says 33% white corn, 33% red corn, 33% blue corn, 1% malted barley. So it's still 99 corn, but they've distinguished now these different varietals, these different colors of corn. 10 years, 120.59 proof, $90. That smells cool. That smells very cool on the nose. Blue corn is such, and red corn is the one I'm not familiar with, but this does have that blue corn note on the nose. I love blue corn in mash bills. I think it's such a cool underutilized thing, and in the next 5 to 10 years, I can't wait to see what people do with blue corn. Oh, this is just dark fruit syrup. Wow. And a little bit of a crisp green apple note that sits on the top. That's awesome. That's my favorite. Even though it's such high corn content, there's total development on the palate, and there's a bunch of like tangy fruit notes as well. So you get a lot of sweetness, but you get this sour thing the entire way through the sip that balances it out. And it's the only whiskey so far that I think has balanced these very disparate, like very interesting components well. So I am a big fan of this. Oh, that's so good. That's just delicious whiskey. So King's Family Red, White, Blue Bourbon, super recommend. A little smoky on the back end. Oh, and intense leather in the finish, like aggressive leather, actually. Sladvan, I don't have the sherry finished King's Family. No. So this was an experimental MGP mash bill. 12 total barrels ever existed. That's so good. Very cool. That is what I would classify as a fun whiskey. Is that. Okay, last but not least, this might not be a fun whiskey for me. 95.5, 8-year rye, 109.3, finished in Amburana. So here we go. Travis, I'm nervous. Okay. I don't know, man. I have a certain threshold of Amburana I can do. Even on the nose. I don't think I can do that. This one is too finished for me. It smells like a candle. This, my first experience with Amburana was a Starlight cigar batch from years ago, and it smelled so candle-like. It just felt artificial, and I couldn't drink it. Travis. That is, all right. I'll take a little sip, man. Oh, my God. Oh, the palate is so much better than the nose. The rye helps this so much. If this was a bourbon and it was finished this heavily, there'd be no chance. I still can't stand the nose, but the palate makes this drinkable. But the finish, it gets back to like Candletown. So I'm good on that. But that's a me thing. And that's another one of those, like, I'm not going to recommend people not buy this or not buy other Amburana finishes. It's just because I know I don't like that note. My only Amburana that I've liked has been Spirit Walker 2 and Barrel Amburana. Spirit Walker had other stuff in there to balance it out, and the barrel was just very light. This is awesome, guys. We got a bunch of new Patreon members now. I totally missed. A lot of folks have jumped in. I don't know how I missed this earlier, I guess. But thank you for jumping in. So we'll do that giveaway after this. Mark, I still haven't tried the RD one, actually. So there, that's why. The New Riff blue, the blue corn varietal that Will sent me a sample of that. That is so good. And Gandhi Road says rye is better with Amburana than bourbon. I do agree. The Dark Arts Amburana rye, still too much for me, but that is about as close as you can get. And again, it's a me thing. It's as close as you can get is that with a rye Amburana would be the Dark Arts for me. I thought that was pretty solid. Okay. Wow, we've really gone through some glasses here tonight. On to the Crittendens, finally. Sorry it took me so long. I'm going to use every glass in this room tonight. So we have 4 Crittendens to taste. Got a rye single barrel, or a rye bourbon single barrel. The toasted pecan. A wheated bourbon single barrel. And a sherry finished rye bourbon. Okay. This has been a long time coming. I've always wanted to taste these. And again, thanks to the generosity of a certain Patreon member who I believe wanted to remain unnamed, I'm able to taste all of these Crittendens, plus he dropped off a bunch of bottles. It was so incredibly generous. So thank you. Let's get these all poured out. You know what? For hot climate whiskey, what are these? Are these 53-gallon barrels? Do they say? They don't say. I think they are 53s that they use. I want to say that's the case. For hot climate whiskeys, they're dark, but they're not absurd, which gives me a lot of hope on those single barrels. Now, the sherry finish is absurdly dark, but that makes sense. And then this is the toasted pecan. Okay, Scott says 53. Toasted pecan is fire. Love the toasted pecan. So a lot of people like the toasted pecan. Joe says Amburana finished rye. It's like Cinnamon Toast Crunch with spearmint milk. Had the Stogie batch, and it was very different. Good, but different. What else we got on here? RD1 Amburana is excellent. All right, so let's kick this off now. We're going to start with what seems to me, it's higher proof, but it looks to me like most of their stuff is rye bourbon. Mash bill 72 corn, 17 rye, 11 barley. This single barrel is just over 6 years old. Entry proof was 120, and it came out at 125.2. So, this to me seems like probably a pretty pure representation of their profile to start with. So, smells good. It smells good. I did not I thought this was going to be a crafty, just a flavor bomb of farmy, crafty notes. This smells very good. Wow. I'm excited. I get goosebumps about stuff like this because I know this is not new to a lot of you, but this is new to me. And finding new whiskeys, I haven't tasted it yet, so things could change, but finding new whiskeys that out of the gate defy expectations and have, like it's an average age. It's 6 years old. They don't break the bank. And the way this is coming off is exciting. I got to think about how to classify it, though. In some ways, it actually reminds me of what I just had, that 10-year red, white, and blue corn thing, where you get that kind of dark, intense, almost bittersweet fruit syrup. Yeah, I think I get that kind of a thing, and then a little bit of like an orange peel note, like specifically this, like, what do they call that? Pithy? The pith or something, the orange peel has that extra kind of little bitterness thing to it. Oh, this smells great. Holy shit. That is fantastic. I'm telling you, I got goosebumps. I'm not lying. It is so good. I am shocked. I'm so happy. It goes on forever on the palate, too. I get it. I get the hype now. The pith is the white under the peel, says Matt. You know what? Let me have this. Why is the first thing you said today, as I'm freaking SJing so hard right now, is critical, Matt. Why are you doing that? Also, I can't wait to taste your Green River pick. They wouldn't let us drill your freaking barrel and get a sample. I'm so mad. Oh my God. And it's $60 a bottle, says Scott. Crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. Wow. All right. Well, I'm sold on Crittendens now. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this. Next up, lower proof. 6 years still. They give you, like, on the back of these single barrels, you literally get the entry proof, the barreling date, and then when it was bottled. So this is almost exactly 6 years old. It's like 6 years, 13 days. 3.5 char, Zach Cooperage. This is 71 corn, 17 wheat, 12 barley. 117.6 proof. So here's a wheated version. Damn. And this has this, so the rye bourbon was, again, kind of like, I would call it bittersweet dark fruit syrup. Mostly. And then, so it's very intense. This smells, it's like a paradigm shifting whiskey because you're trying to find the notes. It's almost like going between, don't take this the wrong way because this still smells like bourbon, but it's like moving from a classic legacy. This will be the comparison I use. It's like moving from a legacy Kentucky distillery to, let's say, drinking something that's a little bit out of left field, like a Woodinville. Woodinville definitely has a little more craftiness, even though I love Woodinville. A little more craftiness, I would say, than typical Kentucky. So you have to, like, reframe, paradigm shift in order to talk about those notes. Here is the same thing, but it's not in a crafty way. It's just the notes come off differently. It's like the difference between American single malt and Scotch single malt. So I don't know how to describe the sweetness I'm getting on this just yet. Because it still has that base of that bittersweet fruit syrup. But it's almost like a sandwich. It's like you have your bread is that note, that bittersweet fruit syrup, but the actual inside of the sandwich, because this is now wheat, is this fluffy sweet thing. And I don't know what that fluffy sweet thing is. I mean, God. It's like, oh my God, it's so much vanilla. But it's an interesting kind of vanilla. I don't know how to describe the texture of what it is. I mean, this is like game-changing whiskey for small operations. Every small operation should aspire to make whiskey like this. It's crazy. I also, Casket Salesman, cannot wait for the Woodinville 8-year. Marshmallow fluff, not quite, Jay. It's like I get vanilla bean, I get vanilla cake, I get vanilla icing. It's something I can't think of. It's a dessert, but I can't put it together. There's a little texture to it, but the backbone is so rich, and it's like full-bodied, full-flavored. I don't know. Cinnabon icing, maybe. Like that's getting close. This is so good. Oh my God! If they do barrel picks, I want to fly to Mississippi tomorrow. Okay, let's keep moving. Did I see Walker? Walker with a winky face. Matt. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I missed that you said hi. I'm sorry. I've been bad at chat. Tonight I've been really bad at chat. I do apologize. All right. Sherry finish. 5-year age statement. PX Sherry specifically. So PX Sherry, you can expect a little more sweetness, a little more of like a dark chocolate, where if you're talking Oloroso Sherry, that's going to be a little bit more of like an almond nuttiness, more distinctly red fruit, Christmas cake, fruit cake, cranberry sauce. Like that's more Oloroso Sherry. And then I would say PX Sherry gives you more of those dark chocolate notes. It's a little bit sweeter. So this is back to the rye bourbon now. 72 corn, 17 rye, 11 barley. It was initially barreled December of 2018 at 120 proof entry proof. Rebarreled a little over 5 years later. And then dumped. Wow, this spent a year and almost 4 months in a sherry cask. So that's why you get this crazy color. This color looks like dusty whiskey. It has that dusty whiskey ruby red tint to it. So they only call it 5 year because the 5 year maturation was everything excluding the sherry cask. Yeah. Oh no, it would have to be called 5 year anyways. Right? Wait, I think I'm going crazy. Hang on. Math. You know, I should do some math. Yeah, I'm an idiot. It's 5 year. I'll stop talking. 109.8. Oh man, that also smells so good. Mark, no, please make the joke. I've gotten over a lot of things in my whiskey tube life, a lot of insecurities and self-deprecation. Now everybody just talks mad shit in the Discord, and now new and improved on Facebook. Now we have the Facebook group. So guys, if you haven't joined the Drums and Drams community chat Facebook group, look it up. Join in. It's where Barrel Picks. This is a shameless plug. Look what we did, Mark. It's where Barrel Picks, if they go public, if they get out of the Patreon, they're going to first go to the Facebook group before I publicly post them all over the place. Back to the point. All people do in the Discord is talk shit about me, and it is so funny, and I'm very used to it now. All right. So the sherry finish, on the nose, it's exactly as you would expect. It smells like pomegranate. It's very syrupy pomegranate and dark chocolate. And raspberry. It's like those dark chocolate raspberry combos that you get in different desserts. Some pomegranate in there too. Extremely rich on this one, but still not overly sweet by any means. Wow, that is a lot of sherry on the palate. Wow. A teeny bit of sulfur. That's the only defect in this I would call out. I say defect, just me being picky. But a teeny hint of sulfur on this. But you know what? As it keeps developing, it's probably the least sulfur of a whiskey that has a sulfur note that I've ever tasted. It's just very faint in the background. So actually, I think I'm cool with it. But it is a sherry bomb. This whiskey, for Scotch lovers, is it's a dream. A Scotch lover would enjoy the heck out of this. I think if you put this up against like Foregate Kelvin Collab 6, this could totally win. Let's do it. The sample, oddly enough, is right there. I'm more than willing to eat my words on this. The Kelvin 6, I think, is Madeira. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it is very finished, from what I remember. And it's got some highly aged whiskey in it, I think. On the nose, the Kelvin actually feels a little bit more tart and sulfured. Quite a bit more. I don't know that I ever picked that up on this, though. Maybe I did. I have to go back and watch. I tasted it live twice, I think. Very intense finishing, but I can still smell the underlying caramel notes in the base bourbon on the Kelvin. And then the Crittendens, it's a little more of a one-trick pony on the Crittendens, but I think it's more enjoyable on the nose. So I'm going to taste the Kelvin. Oh, that's very sulfured. I don't know if I picked up that level of sulfur on the Kelvin before. And that's 115.6, so it has a proof advantage. Oh, there we go, Sladvan. 3 different 9-year-old Kentucky Straights bourbons. Bourbon aged in Portuguese Madeira cask, and then dark rum cask from the Florida Keys that were sourced through Kelvin. Oh, it's not even close. The Crittenden's totally kills it. And that's definitely not my favorite Foregate, I will say that. At $200, I don't know, but that's not a bad whiskey by any means. This is a testament to how good the Crittenden's is. Holy shit. All right, let's go to the last one, which everybody has really talked about here. What's the price point for the Kelvin Collab? The Kelvin Collab Challenger. Do you guys know the price of the sherry cask finish Crittenden's? You were saying the others were 60, but I can't imagine this is still 60. Crittenden's sherry cask finish. Let's see if I can find it. Probably hard pressed to find this right now because it's such a small operation. Joe says, I get 0 sulfur on Kelvin Collab 6. Well, I don't think I've gotten this level either, but I think it's in the comparison. And, like, I complained about a little sulfur note at the beginning of the Crittenden's and then retracted it, and then I think that set my palate up and gave me that sensitivity to the Kelvin. I don't think it's a dirty sample glass. No, I don't think it's anything like that. It could just be the difference between Madeira and PX Sherry. The Madeira does usually come off a little bit more tart, and I did say that it was more tart and sulfur. So maybe it's just that tartness, the additional tartness there, and the PX Sherry is going to be darker and richer, but man, these Crittendens are monster whiskeys. Like, all three of these are instant buys for me. And I know they're single barrels, but Hayden, not almost. Every single pick has made it to the $10 tier. The only one I'm worried about not making to the 10 is the upcoming Green River, but I'm not sure. Because there's never a 100% buy rate in the top two tiers. Top two tiers for us have a total of 110 people, and that will not increase. We are now officially maxed out in those tiers. And without a 100% buy rate, most barrels are going to have at least 50 bottles making it to the $10 tier. And we very frequently have $25 and $50 spots open. I know that's not cheap, but at least the option is there many times per month. But the Green River yield, is apparently going to be like 120 to 130. And after the breakage bottles are held back, pick team gets theirs. I always buy a lot of extra picks because I need them for like giveaways or charity donations and stuff like that. At the end of that, if there's like 100, 95, 100 bottles to go around out of 110 people, that one might not make it down. But again, without a 100% buy rate, we'll just have to see what happens. We're dropping it with the hard truth, I hope. So that way, even if folks don't get it, they're going to love the hard truth, So, I mean, every pick so far has not only made it to the 10, it's made it public. And some of those were similar barrel yields as Green River. The Funky Monkey was 125. And that may have sold out right before public, but it wasn't like it was gone immediately. All right, finally, Toasted Pecan. Color on this one is pretty dark too. Let me read this in its entirety. It says, bourbon whiskey finished in a sherry cask with toasted pecan staves. 5 years, different artwork on the front. It's cool. It literally has a pecan on the front. It's hilarious. 110 proof. Okay. So let's see here. I would say I'm the most nervous about this one. I'm just gonna taste it first. Okay. This is the only one I'm not gonna like, and that's because I'm sensitive to these. Yeah, I'm sensitive to some of the notes that are in here. It's a very smoky whiskey on the palate, like overly toasted. This overly toasted charred wood note. Now, after the first sip, now it's coming through on the nose. You know what it is? I think if I shifted my mind on this whiskey and stopped thinking about bourbon and I started thinking about Scotch, in particular, like, let me think about where this would be for me. Port Charlotte. If I started thinking Port Charlotte, Annandale, very barbecue forward peated scotches, this has a very distinct smoky barbecue note for me. Oh yeah, you know what it tastes like? I'll grab this bottle if I can make it back here with all the floor whiskey. This is a single cask whiskey chamber bottling from Annandale Distillery. First fill, Oloroso Hogshead. So this is also a sherry finish, which is funny because so is the Crittendens. This is a 5.5 year whiskey. It's 116.8. Crittendens is 110. But this Annandale, yep. It's very close. It's this rich berry red fruit from the sherry with just total barbecue sauce. Now that's a little more intense because it's a peated Scotch. But this does have a barbecue note to it. And so if I do just shift my brain away from American whiskey, like it would be actually hard for me to believe that a lot of, if you don't like Scotch, if you don't like peated Scotch, that you could enjoy this toasted pecan, because this is so close to a barbecue peated profile that if someone likes this and they claim to not like peated Scotch, you need to go back and retaste peated Scotch, because that's what this tastes like to me. So if I'm thinking of bourbon, I would not reach for this ever. That's a personal thing. But if I shift my brain, I think I would totally drink this. I just wasn't ready for that profile in this lineup. A rare bird. Yeah, there's no such thing as rye fatigue. Okay. I'm going to let my palate calm down from that sip of Scotch lit me up. So let me take a sip of water. Johnny Umami. Johnny Umami, that rhymes, dude. Well, now this, by comparison, is tame, the pecan. Well, that's not my favorite, but I know why. I can understand why people like it. That is, I think, for me, a completely subjective thing. But the point for me now is that Crittenden's is totally on my radar. And I'm going to have to get in contact with these guys and see what their openness is to doing a single barrel pick, because this whiskey is incredible. And the stuff that I heard about it, that I didn't really want to believe it, because I'm like, oh, hot climate, it just feels like it's going to be really crafty whiskey. I'm eating my words on this. Wow. Wow. Nick Blevins, I live just a little bit south of German Village. Scott, no barrels available for you, Cam. Scott, if we manage to land a Crittenden's pick at some point in the future, you gotta do it with us. Matt, so I saw Warbringer pop up somewhere, whether it was your Instagram or YouTube or somewhere. I remember seeing that, and I know, Josh Barnett has dropped that whiskey off for Joe Rogan. I remember seeing that on his podcast a year or two ago. So, mesquite smoked corn. I bet that lights you up. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. Let me make sure I haven't forgotten any, super chats. But I think I got them all earlier. Yeah, I think so. So thank you guys who did send in some super chats, even though there's no giveaway tonight. I appreciate it. Zach Butler, we'll chat, see if you want to just be entered into next week's giveaway or something, or if you want me to refund that money. Yeah, maybe I should just refund it, because the other folks that super chatted tonight won't get entered next week. So maybe I'll just refund you, Zach. That'll be the most fair way to do that. But I appreciate it. And then everybody that jumped into the Patreon, stay tuned. I'm going to throw up a link in the Patreon to a new live stream. We'll do the randomizer spin for that giveaway. It's going to take me a second to get everything set up, because I got to go through the new members and make sure I get them tallied accurately in there. But thanks for being here. Next week, we will do a giveaway. We'll have several bottles in that giveaway, including unreleased barrel picks and stuff like that. In the meantime, there should be, I want to say 3 videos out next week. I'll try to get one out before Monday, but I don't know if it's going to happen, because I'm going to River Roots tomorrow. And then this weekend, I got to finally unpack all my suitcases and stuff and all the whiskey bags that are in the house, kind of get my life in order. So real life, it has to take priority this weekend. But if I can get a video out, I will try to do that. It's like you're drinking a barbecue restaurant. Oh my God, Matt. I'm probably not going to like it, but, you know. Brett says, I have a Crittenden's pick. You need to do a Mellick when you do the crit. Only a couple hours apart. That's not a bad idea. Scott, I can get you on our next pick, and you can probably get a barrel or two for you. Let's talk, Scott, because doing picks with other people doing picks too can be tough. Like when we did it with the Junkies, we got lucky that we weren't overlapping on our barrels. But if you do have overlap, you know, I would want to avoid any whatever. I mean, obviously you guys would get first choice in that situation, but then it would be a bummer for me. Like, oh man, I really wanted that barrel. So I'm just gonna reach out to them, and if they're open to doing a pick and we can figure out distribution or whatever, we'll just do it that way, probably. Scotch Sunday? I don't know, Slad Van. I don't know. It's the last thing on my mind right now. John, where's River Roots? It's in Cleveland, just outside of Cleveland. Okay, cheers. Thanks, guys. Hey, I'm going to wrap up with a sip of just this Crittenden's cut above 6-year ride bourbon pick. Ridiculous. So there you go. Cheers. Thank you guys for supporting. I'll see you guys, Patreon members, here in just a second. Thank you for the support, and I'll see you soon here on Drums and Drams.